rise for,
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
our heads. Heavenly Father, we ask that you be with us today and instill in this board the wisdom to always make decisions in the best interests of the people of Manistee County. We also ask that you be with one of our county officials, Russ Pomeroy, and help him to make a full and speedy recovery from his recent surgery. Amen.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Here.
Mr. Hilliard?
Here.
Mr. Kolchak?
Here.
Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Mr. Schmidt?
Here.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitman?
Here.
Okay. Approval of the meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, now we have the consent agenda, to A, B, and B.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. All those in favor? No. Okay.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Kolchak?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitman?
Yes.
Okay. We move right along. Boy. Public comment is next. We will need your name and you would raise your hand. We can go on with that. Okay, Bill?
Since no one else wants to talk today in front of the camera, maybe you can afford me a couple extra minutes because I got a lot to say. I want to talk about the task force. The article in the paper was the first notice that the road commission knew of the task force. But the article does have a couple quotes in there from Mr. Hilliard about the composition, the people on the task force, which leads me to believe that other people have already known about it, and yet the road commission has to read about it in the paper. If this is your idea of a melting pot to bring everybody together on equal terms to talk about problems, it's not a very good start, I don't feel. I called Mark Bergstrom about it after I read it in the paper. And Mark's a good guy. I think he's trying to do the right thing and very conscientious. He tried to smooth it over and make it sound like it was maybe the newspaper embellishing the meeting to make it sell more papers. But when there are direct quotes in there by an individual, I have to believe that it actually says what happened. I'm going to go to the second quote first by Mr. Hilliard, and that is the fact that we weren't notified. That doesn't set well with me. The first quote is, we've been getting a lot of calls from a lot of people from around the county who aren't happy with decisions by the Road Commission Board. What decisions have we made recently that's going to upset people? We make decisions at every meeting, but they're buying a truck or purchasing some salt, or I can't think that would upset anybody. The two things that I can think of that have caused a stir and caused articles in the paper are, number one, hiring of the interim Wayne Schoonover, and number two, not renewing Jerry Peterson's contract. As far as Mr. Schoonover is concerned, I came to you before and explained exactly how it happened, When I left here, I thought we were all in good standing, and it was accepted that what I did was the right thing to do. Necoma Township's letter was a big bone of contention. They got everybody all stirred up. Saturday after our last meeting, Supervisor Meister contacted me and apologized for the letter, said he was against it, but his majority of his board voted for it, so he had to sign it, but he was totally opposed to it. At the summit, another of the board members came to me, and John Miller, and apologized for the letter, said she was not in favor of it, but same excuse. Wayne Schoonover has done a super job for us. I wished he would be a candidate for our permanent position, but after being here 1 month, and after telling me initially that he would like to be an applicant for the position, after being here 1 month, and reading the newspaper, and seeing how things are handled in Manistee County, the talk of the commission taking over our board, he decided he doesn't want any part of Manistee County. Instead, he's applied for the position in Mason County, and will be going for a second interview on the 8th of November, and probably has a very good chance of getting him, because he's a super good manager, and I feel terrible that we lost him. The next thing then would be Jerry Peterson contract renewal. I met with a lot of you one-on-one the last year or so. I brought a whole file folder of reasons why we needed to do something different at the road commission, mistakes that Jerry had made, and I recommended an individual to be appointed to the board based on that individual's past record of voting. And I'm not going to deny that. Mr. Hilliard told me after our meeting, which was a good meeting, that he couldn't do that because Jerry was his friend. I'm sorry. You know, I've made enemies in this county since I've been on this job. Too many enemies. And when you're in politics and you're working for the public, you can't let personal feelings dictate how you're going to what you're going to do. The facts should stand for themselves. Mistakes were made, and they continue to be made. Jerry left in June. He had 2 projects, paperwork all done, ready to go. Like a week after he left, Seaman Road, High Bridge Road. Here's some facts. Seaman Road was originally programmed at $83,150. $66,520 was federal money. $16,630 was road commission money. The actual cost, when it was all said and done, was $129,998. Overrun of $46,848. 56% over estimate. How can that kind of mistake be made? Employees? Possible. Estimate? Possible. Mr. Schoonover is still looking into the reasons, but these are the kind of things that I talked to you about when I met with you. The bleeding, the reason why we can't and don't have the money to put into our roads because of these mistakes that I went back as far as 2007 and showed you where there are hundreds of thousands of dollars in mistakes that we've had to pay out over. High Bridge Road, the second job, originally programmed for $93,178, $74,500 federal, $18,636 road commission. The actual cost of that job was $174,636. That's $81,458 over the estimated cost. Of a $93,000 job, we went over by $81,000. That's 87% for a 2-week job. A little patch job on High Bridge Road that wasn't as long as a football field. Almost double. That's the reason that I came to you, to do what I did. And I'll stick by to it to my grave. Now, personnel issues. We have people at the road commission that are very commonly known as the A-team. I may or may not have talked to you about these people. They got very special treatment. There were 7 or 8 of them. Jerry would take them to the local bar for Taco Tuesdays, or has done that in the past. Job assignments, when they didn't like the assignment, the dirty job or whatever it was that the foreman gave them in the morning, they would go back to Jerry, and Jerry would call up and say, hey, I got something else for this guy to do. Give somebody else that dirty assignment. This happened. It happened a lot. And these are the calls that I got. You say you get calls, I got calls also. This caused morale issues amongst the people, the workers. I spent 2 years in the Army. 1 year in Vietnam. Morale. Troop morale was a very important issue. And here you got a group, a small handful of people, about 25%, a quarter of them, getting special treatment. And I talked to Jerry about this many times, one-on-one. Didn't make any difference. Never changed. When Jerry's contract came up in June, he posted the phone number, your phone numbers, every one of you, by the time clock in the break room. He wanted the employees to put you to put pressure on us to renew his contract. You got calls. I know you got calls. And I know some of the people that called you. And it's like, it's the same small percentage. It's like a hay wagon going down the road with 4 wheels. You got 1 squeaky wheel, 1 out of 4, 25%. 7 or 8 out of 30, 25%. You got the other 4 wheels, or 23%, going to work every day and doing their job. But you get the squeaky wheels. They're calling you up and complaining. They want Jerry. They are some of Jerry's good friends. And they got the special treatment. Now, I don't know if today, if you're going to vote on this task force or not, I would hope that you would ask for the facts, not just general statements on, oh, I got a lot of calls. Who called? Did they give you your name? If a person calls and doesn't give your name, it shouldn't count. You write a letter to the editor and don't put your name on it, I don't think they'll accept it. It shouldn't count. If citizens call you, township officials call you, and don't tell you who they are, it shouldn't count. People should have enough intestinal fortitude, if they're going to complain, to be able to stand up and say what they mean and admit that they're doing it. You talk about township participation and citizens' input, so forth and so on. And at the road commission, we have at least 4 townships that come to our meeting regularly, every meeting. And we let them talk throughout the meeting, not just during citizens' participation. They can raise their hand, and any issue that comes up, especially involving their township, we welcome what their input. And we've invited that to other townships too. Everybody is open. The manager and one commissioner goes to every township in the spring. And then it's in his contract that he goes to every township again once more during the year to visit with the townships to get their input. We have an open meeting, very casual, very open, to allow people, the citizens, to have their input at our meetings. It's not easy to make everybody happy. And when you're in politics, it's impossible to make everybody happy. You can't. You're always going to have the few. Unfortunately, it's the complainers that are going to call. You never get credit from the people who are happy with the job you're doing. They don't come forward. It's always the crybabies that are ones that are going to call up and complain. Now, this is a handbook. Every commissioner is given one, based on Michigan law. And it's broken down into plain English, and it's got everything in it that you possibly would want to know to be a good commissioner. In that section, page 8, relationship to the Board of County Commissioners, and I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but it says that your number one job you have is to appoint us if we're not elected. The second thing that you can do, this law gives the County Commission Board authority for removal. It says that you can remove one of us after a hearing by the circuit court for just cause, for malfeasance or misfeasance. If we break the law, we're fair game. If you don't agree with our decisions, I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. And then it goes on to say, besides those two things, it says this is the extent of the statutory relationship between the board, the county board, and the county road commission. That's it, just those two things. So to require us or mandate us to be part of the task force, if we don't want to, I'm sorry, it's not in the law. So the only thing really that you can do at this time is to take us over. The sunset period for this is January 1, 2015. So you've got a little over a year to do it. You can't pass the buck on to the next group coming in here because you'll still be here at that time. And just think of the ramifications if you do it, because you're imposing on the next board the encumbrance of managing the road commission. You may be gone, Florida, wherever. These people are going to have to deal with it for years to come. Just like right now, we're dealing with what your predecessor did when they voted to build that Taj Mahal out there. That's like a millstone around our neck trying to swim across Manistee Lake. They'd have to make that payment every year. It's killing us. Our board didn't have anything to do with it. You guys didn't have anything to do with it. But County Commission Board and our former Road Commission Board were the people who got us in this predicament. So what you do is going to be a long-lasting effect. Do it carefully. So one last thing. A letter I'm going to read to you. The proposed task force or citizen control over the road commission is something that I will not accept. Your predecessors in 2007 chose to go from a 3 to 5 person road commission board with the intention to broaden the decision-making processes and to represent a greater portion of the citizens of Manistee County. The decisions we make are based on facts, figures, and circumstances that are always changing, while keeping in mind they are working for the citizens of Manistee County, not for the manager, not for the administrative personnel, and not for the employees. Being micromanaged by the task force and having to get the citizens' approval or permission is going to make a difficult job even harder to do. Totally taking over the road commission is the only legal way under the law that you can control what happens at the road commission. Either way you choose, my service to the citizens of Manistee County will no longer be needed. Therefore, I am submitting my resignation from the Road Commission Board effective December 31st, 2013. Thank you.
My name is Manistee, and Mr. Chair, I'd like to make some comments and ask some questions. If I may. Mr. Eckhart, if I may ask you a couple questions. First of all, I am a friend of Jerry's, okay? But that doesn't change my opinion. If I think he's done something wrong and needs to be corrected, I will do the right thing for the people of this county, okay? Let's get that clear. I mean, our meeting lasted a couple hours and you only said a couple little statements. You told me a lot of things he did wrong in that day, or had been doing wrong for over years. That's what you told me, correct? And he's been doing things wrong for a number of years? How long have you been on the road commission board, sir?
2007.
Okay.
And anything I brought
How
to
long have you
you,
been the chair, sir?
I can't remember, I don't
Okay.
know exactly.
But why don't you answer my question for me then? If he's been doing all these things wrong for all these number of years, why was he still there as of this year? If you're the chair, you're on that board, and he's blowing all this kind of money and doing all these wrong decisions, isn't it the board's responsibility to replace him years ago?
You're exactly right. Let me read another letter to you then, that may clear up and answer your questions. This was dated December 2008. I was appointed to the board. It says, and this letter accompanied was a cover sheet, a cover letter for my resume to be reappointed to this board effective January 1st, 2009. This is what I said. Since being appointed in September 2007, I've learned that change doesn't come easy. The biggest problem, in my opinion, is a dark cloud of arrogance hangs over us. An arrogant attitude that comes from having power and creating an agenda that is self-serving and not in the best interest of the citizens of Manistee County. Management, with majority board support, has decided to make up for budget shortfalls created by a failing economy, poor fiscal decisions, and huge project cost overruns by reducing the workforce through attrition and layoffs to the point that we will soon have to privatize or outsource our services. I was a state employee during Engler administration when he tried to privatize state government. It doesn't work. What is needed at the Road Commission is a change in attitude, a change in priorities of who we are working for, and a change in power that has created these problems. A change that is in your hands to select commissioners who want to stop the downward spiral that we are in. We can turn things around by eliminating costly mistakes, by reducing spending, and by making our workforce more efficient. Change is not easy, but it can happen, and it will happen if it starts at the top. And that, sir, is the answer, because there were commissioners on that board that thought that Jerry could make no mistakes. And when I presented, in 2007, when the Filer Township cost overruns came in for that seal goat project, I took it upon myself to go out with board permission and investigate and dig into what happened. Why did it cost $200,000, $250,000 more? And I did. And I put it all together. And I made 7 copies to give to the road commissioners. I brought it to the meeting. I said, do you want to see it? No. No, we don't want to see it. We don't care. They didn't care.
Well, obviously, you have not renewed Jerry's contracts for the last 5 years. So that means your decision or your wishes had the board's consent. Okay? So again, for 5 years now, then you had control of the board. Why is he still doing that if he was making all these mistakes?
I don't have control of anything, Mr. Hare. It's a board. It's a board. The board has to make their own decisions and their own choices. I'll present the facts, and we're going to let people go from there and make their decision based on the facts. And that's what I ask you people to do today. You've got the facts. Make a good decision. Don't jump into something hastily without thinking about it, because in the long term, in my opinion, it's the wrong thing to do. And I've been around here just as long or longer than any I don't think any of you were here in 2008 when I submitted this letter. And by the way, I was reappointed by a 7-0 vote at that meeting. And also, an incumbent, Dwayne Anderson, was defeated at that meeting, and Johnny Miller was put on the board. Okay? That board apparently agreed that changes need to be made. And that was the start of the change of the personnel, the composition of the board members. After that, another incumbent was replaced and put on the board to get people on the board that were willing to do what was the right thing to do and not worry about public opinion or whose friend is who. And now we're being criticized for it. And that's all I have to say.
Okay,
I got one more comment to make. I had a meeting last week with an
county board commission meeting member, and he told me that he had a meeting with Mr. Eckhart. Mr. Eckhart's sole reasoning for being on the board was to get rid of Jerry. I'm not gonna mention the name, but he did have that, and he told me that personally here last week. You know, again, if he's been on this board for 6 years, why did it take him 6 years to get rid of someone that wasn't doing their job?
But Ken, I don't want to argue with you, but if that, again, is one person, and I just want to kind of close this part of this off. I sat on the board, road commission board for 5 years as a liaison. And I really have no bad feelings toward Bill. He seems to do as well as the other ones also. There's 5 people on the board. As far as I'm concerned at this point, they're a good group. I've never seen anything that is to a point where it should be,
You know, before anybody on this board makes a decision, you should be talking to Mr. Peterson, Mr. Eckhart, and any ex-board members, okay? I've done that, okay? So you're getting one side of a story here. Okay? Before you make a decision on anything, you should be getting the whole story.
It's like the cost overruns on Seaman Road and Hybrid Road. You know, he gave us the fact they were overrun, but he didn't say why. And if the why is because of additional cost of the labor, because there was no management in place, things were being done wrong, then that's an issue. If it was an overrun because someone just didn't figure in as much gravel as they needed, et cetera, and it was poorly planned, that's an issue. You know, we don't know why the overruns are. You mentioned overruns on numerous other projects. There's no way when you start a project, are you absolutely positively guaranteed that the cost that you present is going to be what it is. Road maintenance is directly related to the cost of petroleum. And as petroleum goes up, so does the cost of the project. The cost overruns we mentioned today, I would like to know just exactly why they were overrun by 57 and 80-some%, not just that they were.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, this will all be rehashed again during the personnel committee.
okay. I hope so. I think we can move along. I assume that there's no other comments, correct? Oh, geez. Go ahead.
My name is Steve Plank. I'll just keep it real short and simple. I think the overruns are because it was done by a governmental agency. In private business, if I bid $500,000 and it cost $750,000, trust me, I paid $250,000. That's the way it works, and if it drives me out of business, everybody says, you stupid SOB, guess you don't know how to run a business. And that's the way it is in the private sector. It just isn't acceptable to overrun, period. That's it, no choice. Why it is in government, I still don't understand how they can do that.
Okay, anyone else?
I question the overruns also, because being in contracting like I was, in 2 weeks you can overrun $80,000 when you only got 6 people working out there in a week. It's hard for me to believe when the former CEO said that they were going to make $80,000 off of one and 60-some thousand off the other one. That should be clear profit, because if they're utilizing their people and they're keeping them busy and it's coming out of their payroll, that otherwise they'd have to pay them out some other way. And it's keeping them busy. So I have a hard time believing exactly what he says, because in 2 meetings, and you know as I do, Jim, I've asked questions. Where was the overruns? How much was it? When I was told, when Jerry was there, it was going to be money in the bank. And I never got an answer. Today's the first time I heard an answer, and I don't like his answer. I want to know the same thing that he would like to know, is a breakdown of where the money went, because I know they don't have that many men on the county road commission in 2 weeks to run that much over, okay? I got a problem with it. I would want the same questions. Being in being that I used to contract and bid a lot of work, I know what it's like. You can overrun, and you have to eat it, just like he said. Unless you can make something out with the, say the owner says, okay, we'll help you out a little bit with this because we know he had some problems. But that's what I, you know, give me more information.
One last comment. I was personally party to both of those projects. I saw how long the roads were closed to get the job done, and I saw the work that was done when the roads were open, and the two don't match. The Stephen Road was closed for almost a month, and there's something wrong there. But anyway, that's,
Well, being the chair, I guess I get the last, the last thing, but all I want to do is say that in the 5 years I've been there, Jerry Peterson, as far as I'm concerned, is a good guy. I've never seen anything that he's done that was wrong. And the same thing with Bill Eckhart, but obviously there was some conflict there. I don't want anyone to think that I had it up for Jerry Peterson. He and I, at the very beginning when I met him, wasn't the best, but in a very short time, we didn't become friends, but we certainly were enemies. That's all I got. Let's go on. Tom, you're next.
well, just a couple of announcements. I don't have much here. On your desk this morning was three different, a letter from Mrs. Raditz, I think her name is, saying she is no longer interested in the canvassing board appointment that he went to the county clerk. Also on your desk is the Drain Commissioner's annual 2013 report, which he has to, I think by statute, provide to you by October each year. And then there's the vehicle bid results that you'll get to later in the meeting that's on your agenda. And I also discovered, as I'm looking at this, because I don't look at the disc before the meeting because I know everything that's in there, because I'm the one that puts it in there. I noticed that in your bookmark, the Ways and Means reports are not listed. I think they're in your board packet. I think one of them starts on the actual equalization report, which is Appendix A, starts on page 72. So you'll have to go up there where it talks about page numbers and hit page 72. And I think there's another Ways and Means report. Yeah, because we added those late, and I don't think Julie actually added them to the bookmark. So I apologize for that. It makes it a little bit more difficult for me to get to those reports.
So where do you want that in there then?
Well, on the agenda, actually.
Well, on the agenda at 9:30, you have Ways and Means report. The other Ways and Means report is just, doesn't require action item, just an overview, I think, of the library, meeting with the library.
The next is the treasurer's report, but Russell is not here. Maybe time to bring this update on that.
Sure. Well, Russ is recovering well. I've been told by his wife to settle him down a little bit because he's been texting me several times yesterday, and she's saying, he needs recovery. He just had the surgery on Friday, I believe. So he must be feeling better, although he did tell me, you don't want to go through this because it's not a fun thing. But we did do some things yesterday to change his voicemail. There's a new voicemail saying he's out of the office until further notice, and there's a phone number for Mindy, his deputy, or chief deputy. We changed his email to provide notice that he's out of the office until further notice, and to contact Mindy. Mindy is also going to be reviewing his email on a regular basis. Those are the things we've done as far as notifying the public and the state of Michigan and federal government or whoever might be trying to contact him, so that emails don't go unanswered or phone calls are missed. Mindy is very capable. Mindy Dalkey is very capable of handling the treasurer's part of his job. We will struggle a little bit in our office with some of the financial part. We'll get through it. Russ will more than likely be back in a few weeks, part-time, to just kind of take care of a few things. We've got audit coming up. We've got end of the year coming up where we close out the books, which is usually a very busy time for Russ. But we'll get through it. I'm expecting that he'll be back in about a month full-time, but we'll see how that goes. Everybody's different in how they recover. But he's doing well. And, I told him there's a lot of people thinking about him.
Okay. Let's move along to the 9:30 Ways and Means Committee report. So, I believe we need Roger up here to give us everything that,
Good morning, everyone. Pretty much the apportionment report is all the townships, the city, the county, school districts, everybody submits their L4029 to us, and that tells us what mills they want to raise and levy on the tax bills this December. And we look at all those and make sure that they meet all the requirements for the Headley and the rollback. And everyone has met the requirements this year. No one's asking for a millage that wasn't approved or wasn't properly rolled back. And so all the millages that have been submitted are legitimate millages, and you guys can be comfortable approving those millages. You're required by law to meet every October to go over the millages. They're in my office. If anybody wants to see any of the L4029s, stop by. Alan stopped by yesterday, took a look at those, and in the Ways and Means Committee, I had an opportunity to look at that information also. Like I said, everyone has met the requirements for the Headley and the Truth in Taxation, and so our office prepared a number of reports. The first reports are just informational, and they basically go through and tell you what the millage rate will be for a homestead and a non-homestead in each of the townships, broken down by the different school districts. We also have a report in here that goes through and tells you that there's a 50 mil limitation, and no one has gone over the 50 mil limitation. You might say, well, what about the city that's at 58 mils? Well, there are some things that are exempt from the rule or the millage limitation, like school debt, community college, and city charter. So everyone is actually at least 10 mils under the 50 mil limitation. Then we have a report that basically takes all of the townships and gives you a millage by millage breakdown of what each person is going to pay in July and in December, and gives you a total. And finally, the state came out with a form. It's called the Form L4402, and that's in your packet. And it basically is the state required report, and that's the report we're going to ask you to approve today. And so I'd like the recommendation that you accept that report and approve the millage rates in the report. And the other thing I want to comment on is that you're required to come in October to approve this, but you can amend the report at a different date. And Onekama Township is requesting a new millage at the November election. And if they approve that millage in Onekama Township, I'll be back with an amended report for you to approve. Does anybody have a question?
I think you need a motion at this point, too, don't you, Roger?
Yes, we're going to.
I'd like to make a motion that the 2013 apportionment report be accepted as prepared and presented by the Equalization Department, and recommend that the same be approved, and the millage rates within the report be thereby ordered to levy on the taxable value of their respective taxing jurisdictions, and that the Form L4402 be approved as Manistee County's official apportionment report.
I'll second that.
Any comments? I think Roger did a very good job putting it together, and once again, the longevity and the experience that many of our people have shows in situations like this. This is a very detailed report, requires some very painstaking, accurate checks of what's going to be put in, and this department did a great job.
Okay.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Kolchak?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Now we're running a little bit ahead of time, so Mark, can you do the finance report?
Sure. Okay, you should have on your computer there, the payment summaries for September 10, 2013 through October 15, 2013.
What page was that?
That is on page 65. I won't go through the details, I'll let you look at those and see if you have any questions or comments. And we'll at this time then make a motion. Motion to, that the demand checks and those issued be accepted in the amount of $446,412.21, same be placed on file.
Any comments?
Mr. Kolchak? Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Okay, now, I guess this could be a time for us to do the other ways and means.
Well, you've got,
There's still some.
there's still some left in the report Mr. Bergstrom is giving, and then there's another report that it doesn't require action, but there may be comments that need to be made about that. So you need to approve two ways and means.
We'll see.
Okay. I was just trying to see if the snow plowing is on the agenda at a different location. So it's just in our,
No, it's
I've got it right here.
It's in
Okay.
here.
All right. Is Bruce here?
He's
Okay,
not.
Well, Bruce presented the various bids for the work. And after reviewing, the Ways and Means Committee reviewing those bids, and I would like to make a motion at this point accepting the bid from Grimm Snow Removal LLC to provide snow plowing services for the county courthouse parking lot, and accepting the bid from Geo Lawn Care Services to provide snow plowing services for the Sheriff's Department and Health Department parking lots for the 2013-14 winter season. And I might add that the Ways and Means Committee looked at those, and the thing that most impressed me, I guess, is that both these services have provided services over the last 3 years. And Bruce says they've been doing a very good job, so that's why he chose those. But also, they're very competitive in terms of the cost. Did you make any motion? I did make a motion. I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
I have no question. I have no problem with the recommendations. They're fine with me. I was curious, in one of the bids, a couple of different times there, they talked about the per bag price for rock salt or evergreen. Were any of them bags accumulated to what we actually need, and did that make a difference, or was that talked about, or?
No, we didn't really go into much detail on that. We looked at the overall price and the cost per hour for services, if they have the equipment to be able to do the job. And then, of course, the overriding factor was experience. Have they been doing a good job? So, yeah, there's a couple of different types of salt situations to talk about, and we didn't get into a great deal on that. That's why I was hoping Bruce would be here to answer maybe those questions.
Well, that's all right. I have no problem with the recommendation. I was just curious.
Snow plowing bids are difficult because we don't ask for an annual price. We ask for an hourly rate. So even, I'm not real familiar with exactly what you're talking about with the bags for salt and stuff, but if we need salt, they provide salt in the parking lot. If we don't need it, if it doesn't snow until January, we're not gonna pay anything. But if it snows every day, we're gonna pay a lot more. We've debated on whether to ask for annual prices, which are, and we've just decided that that's not the way to go, that we actually do better, I think, averaging out over the years. We do better when we just ask for an hourly rate. So sometimes it's difficult because one guy's giving you a $60 per hour rate for snow plowing, but to remove the snow, which we have to sometimes here in this parking lot, is more, and the next guy's less. We've gone through several different, for a long time, we had one vendor that won the bid every year for like 20 years, and that vendor no longer is the low price, and we've used a couple different vendors over the last 5 to 6 years, and like you mentioned, Mr. Bergstrom, the last 3 years or so, it's been the same vendor, mainly because they're the lowest price, and we're very happy with that. It gets very difficult at the courthouse especially, and at the health department. The sheriff's department, there's lots of room. We can put snow anywhere, we pretty much can do what we want. Here in the city, it's a learning process because we get complaints from the city of Manistee because they're piling snow too much in the roadway, or they're piling it across the street, over the curb, and the city doesn't like that. So there's a process that they have to learn as to, or not putting snow by my office there against the window because that's the handicap parking. There's lots of little things that happen over the course of time that a company learns.
If I remember right, one of the bidders said they were not going to bid on the courthouse again because it was so difficult.
A lot of people don't like snow. It's not an easy parking lot to.
I don't think the annual would work either because let's say there was no snow, we have not much snow one year, well then the vendor makes up very well, right? But if we have snow every day during the season and we had an annual price, then we'd make that. So really the fair way to do it is on an hourly basis. Then you're paying for what you have.
We don't have a lot of places to put the snow here. That's the problem.
Any other discussion? Okay.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Krolchak?
I think that's it for action items. Let's see, anything else? Nope, I think that's it. All right, so let's take a quick look here at non-action items to see how we have to run. John, I don't know, do you want to talk about the First Congregational Church or not? Does the rest of the board know about that?
Oh, it's just a minor issue that I brought up to the committee just so that make them aware. The church wants to put a sign up on the corner of 3rd and 4th in Maple, kind of directing people to the church. And it's going to be, I told them I didn't think there was any problem with that as long as they meet the city's ordinance requirements. The city has a very strict sign ordinance. I don't want them putting up some big sign and then having the city tell them to take it down. So I did talk to Mr. Zielinski, I think it was, and a member of the church, and they're going to come back and show me what they're going to put up and where they would like to do it. And I think it's going to be actually a very small sign. It won't cause us any issues.
Is that county property?
Well, we own 7/8 of the parking lot, so.
There's some other items on here, I don't know how much you want to go into on this. For example, the tinting of the windows, I think we're waiting for another bid, so probably.
And I think Bruce met with that individual yesterday, so there'll be another.
I would call it next month. Okay.
Can I want to bring the sign back up?
Sure.
Do we need a motion to allow them to do that right now?
If you want to do that, I would have thought that would just be something I could just handle. We're not talking a big issue here. But if you want to do it that way, that's fine.
That's a good question.
As long as it fits the city's requirements,
I wanted you to be aware of it so that you don't ask about it later and say, why did you do that? If you don't have an issue as a consensus here, I don't know if you really need a motion. It's kind of an administrative thing.
So the other is this the vehicle for the sheriff's department, or is this a different vehicle here? Because
Now, that's a vehicle that's been sitting in our parking lot for the last several months that we traded out with the sheriff's department vehicle. That's on the agenda at a later time, so.
Okay, then we won't have to go over that right now.
Can't.
Okay. And then also, Mr. Chimke gave an update on the jail boiler replacement project, and basically he's run into a problem with delay of the project. The dampers need to be replaced too on the system, and that was something he wasn't expecting. So I think he still believes the price for the new boiler system will come in at what he originally projected. So again, that's more information, so it's not final.
You will get, when we get into the bid process, I mean, that's a very large project, it's about $140,000 project. That will come up in the next few months and then his plan is to, it's hard to replace boilers this time of the year because we got 60 inmates out there, so we're gonna run through the winter and babysit those things for another year. But they have, we are way past their useful life, and there's problems starting to occur with those, and we will actually, what he's planning on putting in is we'll actually pay for itself in just a few years because of the technology that's out there now, the efficiency of those boilers.
I think that was the reason the dampers had to be replaced, because there's electronic controls on the new ones, these are manual or something like that.
Yeah, you're really talking to the wrong guy when you start getting, asking me those questions. But we can get more comfort.
Well, yeah, you couldn't replace the rest of it without replacing the dampers.
The fire marshal made some requirements that he didn't expect.
The joint court committee met, and I guess Manistee County went with 50% increase.
Yeah, and that'll be reported during the joint court committee.
Okay. All right. And let's see. I think the only other thing would be that the MSU Extension Service has now moved into the health department building. I don't know if everyone knows that. And then also, my understanding is that the Manistee County Foundation, Manistee County Foundation is now located in that too.
Wait, they're in with the ADS.
So I think the building's pretty close to being full now.
Well, the MSU extension,
They're
that's
two
a
different
separate
buildings.
building.
But yes, we are using most of that space now. And the health department's also going to expand a few offices into the space where central office was.
Okay, there are some other things on there, but I'm sure you've read this. If there's anything that you have a question on, bring it up now, I guess. If not,
The only thing we could do is do that other ways and means thing, if we do have another name.
okay, we would need a motion to approve the minutes of this one first, right?
Okay.
I'll make the motion. Support.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay. Those in favor?
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Tom, you're good with those page numbers. Where's the other one?
Page 63 is the start of the Tuesday, September 23rd Ways and Means Report.
Sorry, my computer seems to move slow. Oh, I'm real close. There we go. Okay. Well, this was a meeting held on Tuesday, September 23rd, 2013, at 1 p.m. It was held over at the Manistee County Library, the main library in Manistee. There was no action taken of this. It was more an informational meeting. The Ways and Means Committee had the opportunity to meet with Quinn Evans, architects, and GMB architects and engineers, along with board members and staff from the library, to discuss their HVAC system replacement, and also address a few other things like best use of space, lighting replacement, interior space plan, integration of updated technology, self-checks, collaborative spaces, and quiet study spaces, browsing and casual eating areas, good lighting, laptop computer accessibility, new circulation desk, wayfinding signage, and a flexible dividable meeting room on the second floor. I was impressed with the work of just a preliminary kind of proposal, but I couldn't have heard that you do the architects and engineers. They had some really fantastic examples of projects they've worked on, others have worked on, and going after it were just amazing. It was really pretty impressive. The main focus here is that the HVAC system is Sartec. It's been on the for many years, and they've been cobbling them together for several years too. So that's the big concern. But while that's occurring, there are some other tweaks that could occur too. And so we were good to go again today at 3:15. And I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Tom?
No, other than, I think you covered it fairly well. The library wants the county board involved, perhaps to assist with some financing options. And so that's why they are, even though they're an independent board, they have their own millage. They have invited the county board, the Ways and Means Committee, to stay active with that project so that you're aware of what's going on, what their plans are, and what your opinions, and more will be coming later if they ask for financing assistance. Not necessarily financial assistance, although that's a possibility, but financing assistance would be something that that the county board might need to do. Still very similar to what you did at the Road Commission. I know you had some discussion about that, but when the board, the actual financing of that road commission is through the county, not through the road commission. The road commission pays us their annual debt on that. So this would be very similar if you choose to go that route. They're very in the very preliminary planning stages right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you ended it. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that at that meeting, I brought up the fact that is it something that has to be done before this heating time is coming up, and I was told probably not, that it should get through to the winter on certain things that they could do to get it through, and so it isn't something that we have to do before the new year, so.
It is preliminary. There's a lot of work we have to do this meeting. They're also having public input sessions too. I don't know if you attended any of those too. And I don't know what the turnout was on those. That was really good. But I think that's the sum total of that meeting. It's a very, very good meeting, very interesting. Actually, I make a motion to approve the Ways and Means Committee report for Tuesday, September 23, 2015.
Second that.
Any other comments? I'm going to just a voicemail. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Well, we ran almost ran out of money. Why don't we go with the first board, that is the 10 o'clock deal, West Shore Medical Care, West Shore Medical Center Board of Directors. And there are 3 trustees that expired December 31st of this year. And then we need 3 to be the same 3 that would be on here. 1, John Hutch, and 2, Joe Gleister, and the 3rd is Clara Croft. Any of these, want to say anything before we do anything more?
Sure. Give the woman a Florence will always take it. My name, as you know, is Clarence Alstari, and I've had on the board for numerous years. I appreciate your support in the past, and I definitely would appreciate your support now. The hospital is going through some tough times with the loss of critical access, and I really think we need the experience of the board members to help us through this financial challenge. We're going to make it, but it's going to be hard. So I thank you.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Given that loss of critical care access, what are your thoughts in terms of shortfall?
Yeah, tell it like it is, Claire, you know me that well. The biggest expense, of course, is personnel, labor, and that's where it's gonna have to come is with concessions. I don't like it, the employees don't like it, but when we had money, we were good to our employees. And now I'm sorry, but it's payback time. We're only gonna offer one health insurance. Well, we offered 3 plans before with different, pay scales. Well, now we're offering the lowest one. We just simply cannot afford it. The loss of critical access is $5 million. And that's a lot of money out of a $53 million budget. Can't tell you anymore, Mark.
Well, I know the president of the hospital, Jim Barker, had mentioned that you're also going to try to increase market share, too.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yes. But our biggest friend, of course, is Munson. Our biggest enemy is Munson. And I've said this for years for people that have been on our board and at our board meetings. Once a patient leaves the Manistee system to Munson, and you're a good payer, you got good insurance, and you can try to comply, those doctors in Munson aren't going to get rid of you. You have to fight, excuse my plain English, like hell to get back to the Manistee system. Well, it's the truth. Yeah, it's the truth.
Do you see any cuts in staffing at the hospital, or just
No,
concessions?
we are not projecting any staff recommendations, reductions at all. Not at this time.
Thank you, appreciate your comment.
You're welcome. Any other? Thank you, gentlemen.
Morning. I'm Joel Meister, and I've been on the board for 2 years, and I filled a vacancy. And Claire was referring to the challenges that the hospital has financially, and since being on the trustee on the board, I've been appointed as the chairman of the finance committee. And I'd just like to assure you that the committee works with management, and management has developed plans, and we regularly monitor those plans, see where we're at with them. It's a dynamic business. That hospital is like nothing that I've experienced in the past, and it's, but we are being very proactive, and I'd like to continue on in that capacity because I want to see that quality of health care that we have here now continue. So I'd appreciate your support.
I have a follow-up question.
Sure.
Do you see the possibility to recapture that $5 million, or do you see the potential in terms of just work more effectively, grow market share?
We're going to try to grow market share, but very frankly, the majority of that is going to be in, hopefully in cost reductions like Clara was talking about. We're going to do a little bit more effective job in our billing process, different things that we zeroed in on that we're going to work on. Because you can't, it's tough to cut that many dollars out of payroll or whatever.
You've got a very good staff there now. You've got
yeah.
almost every specialty that you can have there now, too. Are you going to be able to maintain all that?
We're planning to,
Okay.
because we need to, if we can. We've got to, in order to grow market share, we've got to be able to offer the things that people are going to need. And so that's where we're at. Anything else?
Okay, we're to hear about 3 positions, terms being from January 1st of 2014 and expiring December 31st, 2016. How we'll do this, it will still take one at a time. So we're going to be taking...
Mr. Chair.
There's only 3.
Yeah.
There's 3 spaces.
What you have here, the hospital under statute, Public Act 230, is a little bit different in how you make appointments. And it's actually changed from how you did it a few years ago. Right now, under statute, the hospital submits you a name for each open position, just one. And you either say yes or no to that name by providing your advice and consent to it. In other words, you either consent to these 3 by motion, or you say no to them. And if you vote no, then we would send that back to the hospital, and the hospital would submit you new names. But they only submit you one name per open seat, and all three of these seats are open. All three, I believe, are incumbents, I believe. And those names were submitted, and you either provide your consent to it, or you don't.
What a privilege, what a privilege. You can vote on each name separately.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yes, you don't
But
have
that's
to
what
get-
you're doing, is
Yeah.
you're appointing 3 out of 3 here, but you can vote separately.
We could do it in a motion, all three, too.
Yes.
If that's the way,
Actually, with the integrity of the process, I have no problem making a motion which would encompass all three of them.
So you're, I just think you're doing away with the democratic process by doing that.
Well,
But go right ahead and do it.
Well,
I'm just probably, because if we just
mentioned by statute,
yeah, but by
with this
statute.
letter of trustee from James Barker, it talks about the Board of Trustees of the West Shore Medical Center voted to present these nominations of John Holtz, Joel Meister, and Clara Kraus-Sari to the county commissioners for their advice and consent to fill these 3 trustee terms beginning January 1st, 2014. That's by statute. I believe that should be a motion to accept the West Shore Board of Trustees recommendation.
Alan, I think that's how I was gonna approach it too, but I think Richard's making a good point. Let's say that.
It's a good point, but it's not by statute and law.
I think you still can do individually. with
Yes.
each person.
That's why Clara just brought
Yeah.
that point up to you.
So if there's, just ask if anybody has a concern before we do your motion. I personally am for all 3 of them.
Well, it's not gonna take any more time for each, the one at a time or all 3.
Yeah, we already got a motion.
I have a motion and a
Do
second.
we have the support?
It's, yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay, we're gonna go on.
what I would suggest is if you are not in favor of one of these, you vote no, because then if this motion were to be defeated, then you could do each one individually. Because obviously someone.
But
from
when
the-
one votes no, if it passes, you're 4-6 to.
That's right, then it's passed.
Then, so, that's the only downside on that, but we'll see, I guess.
In my mind, all we're doing is blessing what the hospital trustees have already presented. They've already decided that these are the 3 they want to fill, 3 existing positions.
That's correct. Whether you do this individually or together, we're still doing the same thing.
Well, if we're gonna do all 3, we all have all 3 here.
No, I don't think
No, John Holtz is
Focus
interested.
No, we have 2 of these 3. Everyone here has a chance to take a look at all 3. And, you want 3 of them together?
Well, my motion was to accept the recommendation from the Board of Trustees of the West Shore Medical Center
For all 3.
for all 3.
Okay. Then we don't need, we have support. And we need
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Colchart?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
And Mr.
Okay. The one thing about this is when you go with all 3, you don't know who got the dollar. I don't know if that matters. That's very true.
The doctor's license doesn't say he was a G either.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Let's go on, unless you want a quick recess, or should we go on? It's not gonna be very long if we go on, but it's up to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Steve.
All right, we're gonna go with the Human Service Board. Now, this one is, we've got to, actually, we need 1. the incumbent, Ben Kubiak, did not apply for reappointment. Now, Ben Kubiak, I just want to make a couple of comments about that, because I sit on the board also at the medical care facility, and the guy, believe it or not, is 99 years old. 99. And he's, for 99, he drives his car there. He always parks in the same place. He's always the first one there.
Are you sure he wants you to retire?
Well, that's the word I get.
I hear he's doing both of them.
I think he's got a girlfriend, so I don't know, maybe. Actually, I do have to tell you this though, because at one of the meetings we had recently, he was sitting there, and now I have problems with cell phones. And he's sitting there, and all of a sudden this noise comes out, and it's in his pocket. He's got a cell phone. Hello? I thought that was so special that he didn't have any problem with the cell phone. So anyway, okay, we do have 3 people: Larry Bilski, Sherry Tykuski, and David Vanderbilt. So we have to pick one. Now we're going to have to do. Does anybody want to speak? There's one here.
Hello, my name is Larry Bilski. I lived in Manistee for over 40 years. I'm married and going on 38 years. I have 3 children, grown children, and 1 grandchild. Currently, I'm president of the Manistee Medical Care Foundation for the past 3 years. And I'm very interested in being part of the DHS team.
Okay. Anyone else?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What do you see as the biggest concerns with that department?
Well, being president of the Manistee Foundation, I see a lot of people. I see the families, how concerned they are, and also the staff at the medical care, how concerned they are. And I just think that our headcount is down. We're not meeting our quota that we have right now, but I think we're going to have to go another way as far as rehabilitation after surgery. We're going to go both ways. But as far as medical care, it's a great place. That they've been there for 100 years. They got 100 employees, and it's a big boost to the economy. So we do need it, and I just feel that, like I said, me being part of it as the foundation, I see what people really need, and we do need it. Thank you.
I would like to say that there's 3 people that are on this board that will have voting. And one of these that gets this will be the one. That we have to provide one. We appoint one. The state of Michigan appoints one. And I believe that the
County appoints 2.
County, yeah.
County appoints. You as a county board appoint 2 of the 3 members.
So, with that, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
My name is Dave Vanderbilt, I'm the other person applying for the job. I'm kind of a newcomer to the county. I've only been in here 22 years. I've been married 52 years. So. I have a master's degree in hospital and healthcare administration. I spent some 30 years running hospitals and nursing homes, including 12 years running medical care facilities, including 3 years at Fiscal Mount here. I've been on this board before. I understand what they do. Directing basically it's about $10 million a year operation. It's about as big as the rest of the county, matter of fact. And it is a business. It's not the money doesn't come from tax funds. You have to perform the service, bill it, collect it before you can spend it out there. So it's much different than a lot of the other boards that people set up. And I do understand that. I know they're having some problems now, the account is down. The push in healthcare is short stays and keep people out of facilities as much as possible. And they're gonna have to change out there. The board out there basically supervises the overall operation, but the place is actually run by the administrator, who has to be licensed by both the state of Michigan and the federal government. So it's a little different than some of our other boards. I've done it before, and I'd like to continue doing it again. Thank you.
Mr. Nicholas, could I ask you a question? Could I ask you a question?
Sure.
What do you see as the main concerns out there, and then do you have some ideas of how you might address those concerns?
The main concern right now is the occupancy. And Larry said, this is off, occupancy has changed out there quite a bit. It used to be patients that came and stayed for years and years, going out there to die. This has changed. They're doing a lot more rehabilitation now. They do far more admissions than they used to before. And a lot of them are fairly short term. They're rehabbed and they're sent home. A lot of these are 2 and 3 week admissions. You still have to go through all the paperwork that the feds and the state require for each one. So there's paperwork problems. There are problems in turnover of patients that they didn't have before. And yeah, they're going to do more rehab work, which they are doing. If the patient load continues to decline, they're going to have to adjust their operation to cover that. If the patients aren't there, it's like any business. The patients aren't there, you've got to adjust to it. And they've done some of that already by closing some of the beds and bringing them back down. They expanded the number of beds when the other nursing home in town closed at very short notice. And that was very unfortunate because we were in the process of building an addition out there to get rid of our 4-bed wards. The intended care operation here shut very unexpectedly. We then had to apply to keep those 4-bed wards and increase the number of beds that we're licensed for. Over a period of time, it's declined again. The patient load has declined, and they've shut some of those. And hopefully, we'll get rid of all the 4-bed wards. It's going to change. It's like any business, and it is a business. We have to remember that. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, but before we start on the three, I want you two that are here to remember now, I didn't mean that you have to carry your phone. You don't have to be able to know how to do it. All right.
I don't have a cell phone.
We have it listed here as 1, 2, and 3. That doesn't mean we're going to first do 1 and then we're going to do, we're just simply going to go around and we're going to, one at a time, decide whether you want Larry, Sherry, or David. And as soon as you get the quorum, which will be 4, they are the ones that we appoint.
Do you want to make any, and the clerk can help us with this, but if you end up with 3, 2, and 2, or that's not a good example. If you end up with 3, 3, and 1, for instance, do you then want to make a decision now before you vote that the lowest vote total will be dropped, so then you're voting for the top 2, so that, is that how you would suggest it be done?
I don't know.
I think that's how it's been done in the past.
Because otherwise you could sit here all day and no one changes their vote. So if you decide that you will drop the lowest vote getter, if they don't have, if the first vote doesn't produce 4 votes, then you will probably vote more than likely, well then you will get 4 votes the next
Do
time.
we need a motion on that?
Just procedure.
Okay. All right, and then with that, we're going to have our clerk go one at a time, and we'll take that.
Mr. Schaefer?
I look at Mr. Von Cruz.
Mr. Waitner?
Larry Bielski.
Bergstrom?
Well, it's a tough one for me. Both candidates, and I'm only considering two at this point, here. And they both responded quite well to the questions. I was impressed by that. So then I had to go to background and education. And Mr. Manistee has an extensive background in administration in exactly that type of facility. Plus he's got the education in that area too. So I had to give the nod to Mr. Manistee.
Mr. Hilliard?
I think Bergstrom never said it right, but I'm gonna go with Manistee. Both the candidates are good.
Mr. Krolchak?
I too am gonna go with Larry Bilski.
Mr. Marshall?
David Vanderbues, I like the experience of that type for this particular board.
Mr. Schmidt?
I'll go with Bilski.
Mr. Vanderbilt received 3 votes, and Mr. Bilski received 4 votes, and Mr. Kelsey received 0 votes.
Okay. Larry, you're it.
I'd like to thank everybody. I will do a good job, thank you.
Congratulations.
We'll do a good job.
Okay, I think we're gonna take about 5 minutes.
Just going to say you do have some members of the public here for the next appointment. Congratulations, guys.
We're going to do, we're going to do the Democrats first only because they're first on the list. You know? And it'll be quick because going with the Democratic Party, we only have 2 because the Margaret has decided not to apply. So we're going to go with Carol, Pascal, and Judith Cunningham. So are either of these here? No. So we're going to do the same thing then that we did before. We're just going to go around, and this should be easier because there's only 2.
Mr. Waitner?
Carol.
Pascal?
That's
Mr. Bergstrom?
I have to admit, I really don't know any of these individuals that well, but the incumbent is doing a good job. I guess I'll go with the incumbent, Carol Pascal.
Mr. Hilliard?
I'll go with Pascal.
Mr. Krolchak?
I'll go with Carol also.
Mr. Marshall?
The incumbent, Carol Castle.
Mr. Schmidt?
Carol.
Mr. Schaefer?
Carol.
7-0
Okay. Now we're going to go right over to the Republican Party. We have 2, Patricia Kamaleski, the incumbent, and Sally Blank. I believe Sally's here, correct?
Yeah. I see that Pat is willing to do it again in the incumbent, so she's got the experience to do it, so it's probably wiser to vote for her.
Oh, you should vote for yourself. But, that's not here, so let's go ahead and give that a try.
Okay, Mr. Bergstrom?
Well, I just...
There's only 2 there, you know, you can,
One is withdrawn, Miss Miller is withdrawn.
Right.
I did talk to both Sally, I spoke with Sally, and I did speak with some other folks too. And so actually Sally encouraged me to go with Patricia, so I'm going with Patricia Kamaleski, the incumbent.
Mr. Hilliard?
Kamaleski.
Mr. Krolchak?
Well, I would have gone to Sally, but she said I should vote for Patricia. I better do that.
Mr. Marshall?
The incumbent, Patricia Kamaleski.
Mr. Schmidt? Mr. Schaefer?
Patricia.
Mr. Waitner?
because it's her wishes, I'll also vote for Trish, but I will say that the correspondence via email with Sally, I believe she got placed on the board somewhere, so I encourage you to put your name in front of the boards as well, because it takes new opinions and new ideas and good conversations back and forth, so I encourage you to apply for any other board you feel that you'd be interested in, but based on your wishes, I will vote for Trish as well.
And I will echo that. I appreciate the emails I get from you. And,
Yeah.
Charge on.
No, we don't give up on this, because you have a place here, I'm sure.
It's very much appreciated.
Okay. Now we're going to go back.
Personnel met October 8th. We had a few items on the agenda. First item was Mr. Gala presented a resolution from the Manistee County Medical Care Facility, changing in the MERS members' contribution for Division 4 for their union contract. Anytime they change their union contract, the county board here has to okay that also, I guess, or go along with the recommendation. So that is their board and the union are agreeing with this change here, and they just want us to verify it. So if there's any questions, what I'm going to do is make a motion here to recommend to support the resolution for changing MERS benefits to change the employee's contribution rate to 3.24% for Manistee County Medical Care Facility, 04 NCF. No other recommendation was made. So what we're doing is we're just clarifying what the Medical Care Board and the union have already agreed to. So we're just agreeing with what they are doing.
Okay, any discussion?
I have one question. When we talk about, this is their pensions,
That's correct.
and we talk about actuaries and all that, are they within the county, or are they separate as is?
They're a separate division. They are not like the road commission. They're a
Okay.
separate division within the county's retirement MERS plan. That is why the road commission doesn't come to you for decisions like
Right,
this.
right.
The medical care facility has to. All you're doing here is by union contract, they must have a cap in their union contract that says the medical care facility will only pay up to blank percent of payroll for the MERS benefit. And every year there's an actuarial done, and MERS says, okay, it's blank percentage. And so, let's say it's 12%, and is the max that the medical care facility administration will pay. And let's say it came in at 15.24, the employee takes the difference between the 12% and the 15.24. And I asked Lisa what their previous contribution rate was, and it was like 1.79. So this year, according to their union contract, they have to pay anything over the cap. And in order to do that, there's a resolution that MERS needs, and you're just confirming or approving that resolution. You really have not a lot of choice here, but to approve it because it's by union contract, but it's something MERS requires.
Right. Okay.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Kolchak?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitman?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Thank you. Here, at last month's board meeting, this board asked the Personnel Committee to look into possibilities of ways we can help the road commission out. All right? There's no talk of taking it over. What we're trying to do is trying to form a committee that will look into ways to get the road commission out of the financial difficulties that they are in. All right? And what Mr. Eckhart said here this morning, we're not looking at taking it over. We're looking, if we're partially responsible for what the road commission does, then we should be partially responsible for fixing the problem. All right? So what the Personnel Committee wanted to discuss today for the whole board is putting a committee together to look into ways that we can hopefully financially put the road commission on firmer grounds. And one of the ways we have discussed is this recommendation here to form a task force, if you want to call it a task force, with the personnel committee, the 3 members, 1 member from the road commission board. They can decide who that is. 2 representatives from Manistee Township Association, and they can decide which 2 members belong to the Township Association. And also ask the prosecutor and the treasurer, of course, because he's the financialist. And that's what we would like to recommend, is that we put this task force together and see if there's ways we can help put the road commission back on its own 2 feet. None of the 3 of us would just want to take this road commission over. It's the last thing we want to do. But we've been hearing now for the last 2 or 3 years how much financial problems they are in. Maybe it's time that we look into it to see if we can help them out.
Before this goes to a motion, I would like to know some of those same sentiments. We were all at the MAC conference not too long ago. We all went to the same workshop in regards to this exact subject. And it didn't seem to me that it was anyone's intention of outright takeover, but it is our obligation as elected officials to make sure that we're at least investigating ways that we can help the organization that exists. I wish Mr. Eckhart would have stuck around to hear some of this, because at no point is this a shot towards him directly, because no one's ever questioned the dedication to the road commission or his job. But when we get phone calls, and at the same meeting when he called Ken out specifically about having constituents call, I've had multiple calls as well, and I made that clear in some of our meetings. And you know, at the end of the day, it's not Bill's road commission, it's the residents of Manistee counties, and that's what we're trying to help. And we certainly wanted a member of the current road commission to have an active part in this task force, because the task force is simply going to be set up to, as Ken said, put the road commission on a better track to financial stability. It has nothing to do with us wanting to take over that responsibility. I don't think there's anyone that sits around this table that has the expertise to run a road commission. But it is our obligation to try to help them in some way. Mr. Eckhart also mentioned that this was in the newspaper was the first he heard about it. Well, that's not uncommon. The first we heard about hiring the interim was in the newspaper, and my phone blew up about that. The first I heard that there was a joint communication between Mason County was when there was an article in the paper. And to quote that newspaper, when Mr. Eckhart said, I took it upon myself to go to Mason County. Again, it's not uncommon to have the first rumblings of something in the newspaper. I think Mr. Eckhart took it as a personal attack, and it certainly is not that. His expertise would be very much welcomed on that committee, but evidently he's tendered his resignation. At the end of the day, what we want to do is make sure that we're acting in the best interest of the county residents during the time period before the sunset happens on that particular rule, or we may not have the opportunity to investigate this again. So our time of action is brief. You know, we're talking in a fiscal calendar year, it seems to go by in a blink. So if we really want to make a difference, we really want to do what's right by the county residents, I believe we're obligated to do the investigation and make recommendations and assist the road commission to make sure that they can be prepared to make better decisions. Maybe a better relationship between all of us in that. You know, it is not about an outright takeover. This is about finding good solutions to big problems. That's the purpose of the task force. It's not to take over the road commission.
Did I say something, or do you want to make the motion first, and then let me talk?
Doesn't matter.
Go ahead and talk to it. Huh? Okay. Just when we're talking about this meeting at MAC, that they talked about the road commission in Calhoun County, we got 3 people sitting on the personnel committee. One wasn't there, the other 2 attended the meeting, but only one stayed halfway through the meeting. So they may not have gotten all the information out of that meeting. Okay. Secondly, it sounds to me like these 3 people on this personnel committee are pretty well up in knowing what's going on, so they want to jump in and help the road commission.
But I would highly suggest they start helping our board here work out our problems, our $8 million liabilities and so on. Before we give advice to someone else on how to run theirs, we should straighten out our internal problems. Thirdly, I heard that through some of the papers, I think Tom might have found out, that we're working with collaboration with Mason County. We already have some working relations with Mason. Our road commission did work in Mason County this year. Now, they just didn't get that work by bidding it out. They were asked as a collaboration to use some of our people. So I don't agree with the task force. I think we should really let them work their problems out at this point in time. We have a year, okay? And they're talking about this sunset. They are trying to pass a bill to extend it. So let's not rush into this, and let's not get everybody up in arms about it. Let's see what the road commission actually comes up with.
You know, Mr. Smith, a year, you said, we're just getting into it. This has been going on for 6, 7 years now. It hasn't been just yesterday this all started.
Yeah, we had our problem 6 or 7 years ago. How far are we fixing our marriage problem? We're farther behind now than we were 6 years ago. So let's not go preaching to people on how to fix their problems if we haven't fixed our own.
Well, I'm pretty sure everyone's getting mixed up with the word investigation. First of all, we're not investigating nothing. This is initiating opportunities between two governments, if you will, which is the road commission, and in this case, the personnel committee. And
The personnel committee is not a unit of government. It's a committee on this board.
Committee on this board. But still, the opportunity to collaborate and come up with some ideas, whether it be through the MERS or whatever, I don't have a problem with it.
I mean, we got more problems. I mean, the personnel needs work to do. The library's running into problems. We just heard medical care is running into problems. Maybe you want to get a task force for each of those organizations and give them a few pointers.
Actually, I think it's already been identified that we are going to have a meeting with the hospital, and we're already going to have a meeting with medical center, medical care.
I'd like to make a comment about that. Now, the task force is up there and whatever you want to do, but remember this, you're going to have, Bill Eckhart is not going to be with us after the 1st of July. That means there's going to be one less, not July, January. Yeah, there's going to be one less person on the board of the road commission. It's going to be, instead of 5, it's going to be 4. Now, we didn't have one that was going to be this year for some reason. It got screwed up in the past thing, but we normally would have gone okay with 5. Now we got to go with 4 because those are Then, once we get somebody that's 5, then we got to figure out who is going to be the chair of that position. So I think that if that could wait for a while, I think that we all got to do what's best for that. We got to get the right person in there. We got to get the right person that's going to sit there and do those things. So I just would only ask that maybe it's a good idea to just wait for a couple of months and see what happens, or not. It's going to be tough if one is going out and then we got to have another one and then we don't know who the chair is going to be, and so that might be something to consider. I'm just putting it out there, whatever.
You know, I'd like to reinforce that statement. You know, we have the opportunity now to have a whole new atmosphere in the road commission in total. As soon as Mr. Eckhart has left, and there are people who feel that part of the issue is because of Mr. Eckhart's feelings about Mr. Peterson. When that is no longer there, and we appoint a new person, and they reaffirm themselves as how they want to structure their board, we may have a whole different group of people to deal with on a different matter. So I'll go with Jim and say that maybe we should just kind of hold back here and table this until we find out how it occurs.
I would take motion now.
Well, I'd like to make a comment too, if I could.
Sure, but
I'm the only one that didn't yet, so. You know, here's the good part, I had a chance to hear all of you first. And, you know, I just want to muddy it a little too. Well, to get right down to it, I attended that session, I stayed through the whole session. I don't know who else did, I thought it was an excellent session, conference. And what I liked about it is it did open up a dialogue. The people that spoke were talking about developing a dialogue with the road commission. And the other thing that I learned is that this road commission situation is not uncommon. Many, many counties in our state are dealing with a situation where the road commission is in deep trouble. And so there's a lot of different approaches that we've tried. Some of them have gone right to taking over the road commissions. Some county boards have done that, and it's worked well for them, and maybe for some it hasn't. Others have started a dialogue in the form of maybe a task force, where I think Carl got the idea there too. And so it was an opportunity to talk about the concerns that the road commission has, and what can the county board do about this? Maybe we can't do much of anything, but we don't talk about it, we won't know either. And they do have problems. They have bigger problems than we've got, actually, financially. So I think it doesn't hurt to start that conversation. The other thing is, if there's any thoughts at all about getting more seriously involved in it, there's only about a year window there. And a year goes by real quick. And maybe they'll extend it, but there's no guarantee on that either. So I don't really see the harm in a dialogue. I think for one thing, I think Mr. Eckhart echoed some concerns that I don't relate to. They just some things that I don't relate to, and maybe I don't know enough about the road commission, but I do know that it's had a lot of issues. It's in the paper a lot, and it doesn't seem like a bad thing to do to start a dialogue and see what the situation is and how we can get involved, where we have to get involved.
I didn't say what we shouldn't do this thing. Let me put it this way too. When Bill Eckhart gets off the board on the 1st of January, there was only 1 year left on his so you have a pretty good situation there. Whoever you appoint, he's only got a year, so he better do a good job, or that he'll come up and probably get.
And that's another good reason to start a dialogue, because you got a new face on there that maybe is open to ideas too. So.
But you understand my.
Only so there was 1 year.
For 1 year.
He's going that church.
Because most of the time, they're there for 6 years.
6 years.
Right, Tom?
6 years.
6 years.
May I ask the clerk something? By virtue of the fact you have a resignation in your position.
I do.
You do. Do you have the option then to announce for that position now? So we have.
Well, I did mention that to Mr. Kolchak that we probably should get a consensus to do that, and do we also have to accept his resignation? I don't know, since you were part of him.
I think we do.
That may be something you might want to just cover, to have that done. And then I would go in your direction if you want me to re-advertise for an appointment maybe in November, or December rather.
So that would give you enough time between now and January 1st to have someone available.
For your direction.
Tom, what do you think? Is that the right?
Well, I think that the county clerk knows more about this than I do, but this, I would suggest strongly that you advertise so that you, as the clerk said, so that you're appointing in December, so that you don't miss a beat. The new person starts January 1, or whatever the first meeting is in January.
Well, in the past, we have done December meetings where we did appoint for the.
Right, and you change some of your policies in the past so that the new board always makes appointments. You don't have that situation this year. It's not an election year, so it won't be a lame duck board making the appointment. It will actually be this board who's in office for another year, so you don't really have that issue of waiting until the January organizational meeting like you do, but like you will after next year. So you can make that appointment in December. It's still going to be the same board
that makes the appointment.
Is
Not a
there-
suggestion, do that.
Is there a motion on the floor right now for anyone?
No, okay.
Then I agree with our clerk, you'll know that, and I believe we do have to accept resignation from an appointed member. In this case, the chair, Commissioner Wilkie. I think we're supposed to, or I think we should. So,
I was wondering if he was speaking in haste, but if he took the time to write it and to submit it, I'd say he's probably pretty serious about it.
Do you want me to read this, or should you want me to get a copy for everyone here?
He's already read it. He's already read it.
Okay.
I don't think it was out of haste because of the fact that in a conversation I had earlier this month with him, he said, well, if you want me to resign, I will. So, I told him I didn't want to.
It's pretty
You
obvious,
said, yeah, you would.
it's pretty obvious in the letter that he has no intention of usurping or letting his power go. He's threatened by even the implication of a task force trying to assist him. And I think the fact that the letter was prepared, I think we're saying is enough for me to let him.
I think he made a good decision when he said January 1st also. Because that is exactly what we have to do. Because it's gonna mean that we're gonna need Tom, when, and because of Christmas, when is our December meeting?
It's still scheduled for the third Tuesday, which is somewhere around the 17th or 18th, I think, usually. It's right behind it there, 17th.
And how long do we have to have it with it in the paper?
I usually start at the beginning of the month, give it 2 weeks to run, not for 2 solid weeks, but 3 times I advertise with the News Advocate, 1 time the Shoppers Guide, because it's cheaper that way. And then I usually want the applications in the week before Tom puts the packet together, because then I have to do a print of a check, and that takes a few days, so.
So we will be able to have an applicant if someone
Well, we have
applies
more than enough.
to appoint in the December meeting for January.
So then we agree that she could go ahead and do what she's got to do.
Well, I think we have to accept the resignation first.
The reason why I didn't make that motion then was because it was talked about that we were gonna talk about this again, which we are now. Having said that, I would make a motion to accept the resignation of Bill Eckhart effective January 1st, 2014.
Do we have support?
I'll support.
Okay, any other discussion? Well,
Mr. Kolchak?
I'm gonna say no, only because of the fact that it's got I don't know.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Okay, now,
I'd like to make a motion that the county clerk pursue the search and presenting of the candidate for appointment to our commission.
December 17th, December 17th.
I'll support that.
Let's go.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Kolchak?
Yes.
Okay, with that, I'm gonna, because time is limited here, and I think, we're not here, like I said again, to take the road commission over. We're here to help them out if we can. If we financial officer, that can give them some advice as to how to, financially get themselves on their feet, then I think they should be talking to them, vice versa. So I think that's what we should do. So with that, I'll make the motion that we form a task force to consist of the personnel committee, 3 members, 1 member from the road commission board, 2 representatives from the Manistee Township Association, and also have on the county prosecutor and county treasurer.
Any discussion? Is there any concern about the composition of that group by any board commissioner?
I'm one member of the county road commission board for that. Would that be too little? 3 of the ones in this commission, and then 1 member of the Manistee Road Commission. And I can see 2 representatives of Michigan.
I think the biggest reason we went with 1 is because we didn't want to make this board too big. Okay. So, I'm sorry, committee, too big. And I think that was the biggest reason why we went with 1.
And if it doesn't necessarily have to be the personnel committee members, I think any members of this board that crush on interest. Those are just suggestions that were brought up at the personnel meeting.
For that dialogue that's been talked about, to open that up, I think that's important. At this point, I don't have a problem with the personnel committee at this time, or the entire board membership that you're talking about in this committee.
I myself feel it would be basically a show of the moral reflow of what if you could drop the county commission to 2 and bring the road commission to 2 on same footing.
I like that idea. That's fine with me.
Because
That's fine.
actually, if we continue to have a liaison at the road commission, that would be a 3rd commission anyway. So,
I have no problem the other way, but this is fair, and I have no problem with it.
What was your recommendation to go to 2 out of the personnel committee and then add 1 from the county? For the road commission? 2 and 2. 2 and 2, okay.
That sounds fair, and I'm good
I'm
with
willing
it.
to not be on the committee, Carl and.
Well,
I have a motion on the floor out there.
yeah, well,
You would have to amend vote on the amended motion. Somebody would have to make a motion to amend the action or the motion as it reads. And then you would vote on that, and if that passes, then you would vote on the original motion with that amendment in.
My recommendation, I will make that motion to change it to 2 county board members and 2 road commission members.
I'll second it.
I'll recommend something else.
what I would like to, why don't we have, instead of personnel, why don't we just have the liaison to the road commission board on that? And 1 other,
You should probably list 2 of those commissioners.
right, and then 1 other commissioner. Be on the personnel and get some rest, place else. I mean, if he's gonna be on the liaison, then he should be on this committee.
Actually, you could make, the more I think about that, the more, you could make the amended motion the way it is, and then after all this is done, if it's approved, then you can make a motion or ask for volunteers of the 2 commissioners and make those appointments of the 2
the
commissioners.
real question is, are you gonna want 2 commissioners for the whole thing, or are you gonna have 2 commissioners and the liaison for that? Is that way 1 to 2?
The 2 commissioners are on the term which has been given, task force, liaisons now.
Right now, you have a motion on the floor, the county clerk has a motion on the floor asking, naming 3 county commissioners, basically 3 county commissioners from the personnel committee, and 1 road commission member and some other people. And then Mr. Schaefer made an amended motion, which you would vote on first, to change that to 2 county commissioners and 2 road commissioners. If that passes, then you will vote on the original motion with those amendments in it.
But now, you have to, you eliminating personnel then?
Well, I would think you're eliminating the word personnel committee. You would then once you, if both of those motions pass, then you could discuss amongst yourselves who the 2 commissioners are and take care of that, because that should be just taken care of at this meeting. Decide who you're gonna, whether it be an emotion or you just decide, or whether you make an appointment by the chairman. I don't think there's any hard and fast rule there.
I think personally, idea is 2 representatives from the county. Board commission makes sense to me.
That sounds fair.
Can I say one thing? Go ahead. It has nothing to do with this vote. Has everyone walked through all the buildings at the road commission? Yes, you have.
Yes, I have.
Ken probably has.
Yes, I have.
And
I think that's a big one. I don't know how many doors we have.
they got, well, the reason I'm asking this is you're going to set up this course right here. You need to go through the pencil and paper, write down suggestions. 2 years ago, I went through there because that 5-member board asked me to go through there, because that's what I did before I was elected, inventories and so on. And you need to go out there and look to see what they have. And maybe your task force can do this. I've done it all the way back to the car that sits in the last building that's cut up, who knows who owns it, from the jaws of life. It's been cut in half. I mean, they took me to every point, and I suggest we do this. Just a suggestion.
So, now, do we have that motion all in?
Well, I have 2 motions. So like Council will vote on the amended motion first, that include the 2 county board members, the 2 road commission members, the 2 members from the MTA, county prosecutor, and county treasurer.
A yes vote on the amended motion means that you want 2 road commission members and 2 county commissioners. A no vote means that you want to vote on the original motion of 3 county commissioners and 1 with a personnel committee and 1 road commissioner.
So, once again, we're trying to get this in one vote. If you're in favor of 2 commissioners and 2 road commissioners, then that would be the
Well, no, then you're going to vote on the original motion, whether this passes or not. It's just what's in that original motion. All you're doing here is amending the motion to include that in your motion.
If that's the case, don't you think we should, first of all, do what was?
You can't. Once someone amends the motion, you have to vote on the amended motion first.
So what is your motion on there?
Call the question.
Actually, it's Mr. Schaefer's motion that he voted.
Okay.
Do you understand the motion? Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Kolchak?
No.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
It is 5-2, the motion passed. That amended motion.
So now you would be voting on, and clerk can correct me if I'm wrong, you would be voting on Mr. Hilliard's motion as amended, which is to create recommendation to create a task force, which includes a Manistee County Road Commission task force, which will include two county commissioners and 2 members of the County Road Commission Board, 2 representatives from the Manistee chapter of the Michigan Townships Association, the county prosecutor, and the county treasurer. That's your motion now. If you don't want a task force, or if you don't like that board structure, that committee structure, then you would vote no. If you're acceptable to having a task force and moving forward with that structure, then you would vote yes.
Well, what if some of the folks just want tables until after the new appointment is made? because it sounded like that was some hope for me as well.
I'm not sure I understand your question. Yeah, if you want a table and you don't want any action, you would vote no. Because you're voting to set up this task force. And the only thing you're changing in the original motion that Mr. Hilliard made was who sits on it. If you don't want the task force right now, and you want a table, you just vote no, and if the no votes prevail, you won't be doing anything at this point except appointing a new road commission member.
To make things more confusing, once the task force is or isn't, and I'm going to say is, in this case, to get my example out, formed by vote, when they start, will be decided among that task force, whether it be tomorrow or February. I mean,
That's correct.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Colchak?
No.
Mr. Marshall?
yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
No.
Yes, 5 to 2.
Now, what I would suggest, you could keep the process moving so that, I'm guessing that my office that will be organizing this group and organizing the meetings. If we don't know who's on the committee, then it's hard to schedule the meetings. So I would suggest now that you somehow, and I don't know how you do it, you decide, pick 2 county commissioners to sit on the task force. And then, once we know that, then we will send emails and letters out or whatever, asking everyone for dates and times that they're available, and we'll try to come up with an initial meeting date.
Shouldn't that be at the next meeting? Because we're gonna have to ask for a stone, we're gonna have to ask for.
Well, they're already automatically on. You've already
They might
set.
say no.
I would recommend Mr. Hilliard and Mr. Waitner, because they've already put in some time on this. Carl really brought up the idea in terms of the task force, and Mr. Hilliard jumped on it right away. I'm very interested in it too, but I like to see more of the balance. I like to see the road commission a little more involved. That's why the 2 from the road commission is so important. I mean, who are we dealing with? We're dealing with the road commission. And,
I would agree with you to the point where, maybe the liaison to the board should be on that too, so maybe one person from personnel and the liaison officer should be on that. Yeah, it's up on the 2 road commission board, all right. I wasn't discussed at a personnel meeting, but, we should have enough knowledge, about what's going on at the road commission to have an influence or good conversation, so.
That's one thing about the liaison, I can say that when you're there for every meeting, you know what's going on, you know, other than you get the, I agree.
I agree as well, whether it's Jim and Ken or Jim and Carl or Jim and Mark. As long as the conversations start by the purpose of task force is to open up that dialogue. And it's still going to take time to organize the meeting anyway. You know, the first meeting may not be until February anyway. I mean, we still have to formulate who's exactly on the board.
Yeah, because a letter, once you get done here today, we will be gone. I think the MTA meets tomorrow night, so we would we would officially try to get a letter to them, hand it to them at the MTA meeting for them to make an appointment. Now, they may not be able to make that appointment then until the following month.
We don't meet again until after February.
So,
We are done, this is our last meeting until after February.
And that's,
they may have to, I don't know how you'll handle that, but
I'll bring it up tomorrow night. All those townships are interested to have them send a letter back to Tom, I would think, if they do want it.
well,
Saying they are, so-and-so on our thing is interested. That way you will know who from what townships might be interested to be on the.
well, I know that the personnel committee, though, did not want to pick and choose a township. They wanted the MTA to do it.
Well, that's.
So I think it would be the hope that, the way I would suggest you do it, since you're not meeting till February, is that they give you or someone, or a committee of MTA members, power to act in choosing someone who's interested in that position.
I'll bring that up tomorrow.
It doesn't have to be only Maple Grove, it should be any one of the townships.
That's what it is.
exactly what we want.
We won't see another township until February.
That's right.
Other than that. So it's gonna be a while probably before we.
And we'll have at least, we usually have about 7 to 8 of only that come to the township meetings. So at that point, either we've got to suggest it at that time to make their choices, or you'll have to go back to each one of their townships, and a letter has to go out and say, those who might be interested in it will have to submit something, because
So I'll make a motion that two county board members be the liaison to the county road commission board, person appointed there, and one member of the personnel committee, and Mr. Waitman is that.
I'll second that.
So there's only two board members that are going to be on.
That's correct. No, they're going to, they'll be a liaison and the personnel committee. Mr. Waitman.
So really, what you're,
Is there a problem with having two board members and the liaison? on that?
Well, we just changed.
You just changed it.
3 to 2 in the motion.
Yeah, I know that, but we weren't talking about the liaison before. We got the liaison.
Well, the liaison is the county commissioner, so the two county commissioners, so that's what we do, that's up on two.
I thought we had agreed though on the 3 commissioners,
And
2 and 1, 2 and then the liaison.
That's what I thought, too.
no, your amended motion was to make it even between the road commission and the county board. To have 2 county board members, 2 road commission members, and then the others that are listed. That was your amended motion, passed that. Then that was in the original motion that way, and you passed that. So you have 2 county commissioners.
I just needed clarification, because I look at the liaison as a little different role than just, well, a board member.
Don't you think that a liaison could be a third one, but not necessarily in this task force, but rather as it's been all these years that I sat on it, for 5 years, I was the only liaison. Either that or, first of all,
The liaison will be on there. I just had to have clarification on if it was 3 or if it's 2.
so it's 2 commissioners,
One
and then the
commissioner.
regular liaison that's been there for.
No.
One commissioner, one liaison. Unless it gets one. Then
The question here, because there's already a motion that's been seconded, is in essence, are you interested in that or not? In other words, you can decline that interest, if you will. In other words, the motion on the floor right now is for 2 county commissioners, which is you and Carl Waitman.
Well, I don't know how that's gonna work, because I voted no against the task force. On the other hand, I didn't realize that the liaison was gonna move in there.
I think what Mr. Marshall is asking you, though, I think, is if you're not interested in serving on the task force, do you want another commissioner appointed rather than you? In other words, instead of Mr. Colchick and Mr. Waitner, do you want it to be another commissioner and Mr. Waitner?
That's fine, as long as I can just continue to be the liaison.
We will be in it.
You would still be the liaison.
Road commission.
But for road commission meetings, you would not be a part of this task force.
Still be present, of course.
Yeah.
Because it's over the public, and you can still.
I would prefer that, but
So, can we amend that, Jill, or do we have to vote that and just vote no on that motion? On that motion made by
We should
Jill?
amend it just like we did the last time.
You could do the same thing, or Mr. Hilliard
To amend and then vote on
can
it.
withdraw his motion.
I will withdraw my motion.
That's the easy way to.
Is there a second to that withdrawal?
I'll second it.
and now we need
Be a new motion,
Now we need a
report to
motion.
people.
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Well, then don't we have to vote on it?
Well, actually, you didn't even need a second. If you just went through, I think that's just,
Yeah, but there was a second on the floor.
that should, you probably should have done it the official way.
You probably should take your roll call vote just to cover.
The microphone is not that good. You're clear.
Okay.
Would you put, next time, would you put a microphone right there? No, I'm just kidding.
Okay, so we're voting on the withdrawal of the motion.
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Kolchak?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Thank you. And then there is a new motion.
I would make a motion to appoint, if you will, Ken Hilliard and Carl Waitner to this new committee, with the road commission.
I'll split that.
Well, that's okay too, so that's still
Are they participate but not vote on anything in this committee, or the same,
Task force won't do any voting, we'll just be making recommendations.
make recommendations? So the, as someone roll, you said,
How many people come to the
It
meeting?
used to be very similar, absolutely.
The difference would be, you have the task force meeting, you're all sitting around the table. The liaison would not be a part of this, of sitting around the table. They would be sitting in the audience, could potentially speak as long as you don't have a quorum of this board, but they would have to, they would not be a part of the task force. They would be an audience member. They would not actually even be invited to the meetings. They would know what the meetings are, but
No, we just have a motion and a second. This is the motion to appoint Ken Hilliard and Carl Waitner to the task force. Mr. Bergstrom?
yes.
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Kolchak?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Okay, no other items for board action. Only other thing I'll mention here with the personnel is that Mr. Gala is still gathering information as to county controllers, administrators' wages, and see how they compare with other people in the state. If there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion to accept the personnel report.
Boy, Mr. Whitter, you're starting to compete with the Ways and Means for taking the most time.
Sir, I know that.
We're glad to move aside.
I have a second, a motion and a second to accept the amendment. So I just need a voice vote.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now,
Public safety, thank you. Public safety night, October 8th. One item requiring board action. A discussion was, we had a discussion on the old animal control building on Franklin Road. It's been in the county's possession here for a number of years, but it's also been vacant now for a number of years. And we would like, since it's not being used or anything, maybe we have a possibility of selling this property. Not really a long discussion. I mean, it's just sitting there, vacant, just deteriorating. So we figured it was the best thing to do would probably just to sell it and get it out of our hands. I think we tried to sell it once before, right?
It was up for sale at a pretty high price,
What was?
about 5 years ago, over $70,000 we're asking.
70?
Yeah. If
How
you
much
look,
land?
there's not a lot of land there. There's a fence, it's a fenced-in area, it's a small block building. It's deteriorating. It's just not being used at all. Probably will never be used. Even if we did not have a new lease with the Humane Society, we would never get approval at least in its current condition, to make that an animal control building again. You probably have to build something new either on that property or at the sheriff's department. So, you know, there is the opportunity to hold on to it too in case something does happen in the Humane Society where you would tear that building down and put another one on Franklin Road, but it's up to you. It's sitting there vacant. I sometimes think it's a liability for us. Nobody's really using it. It's real. We put it up for sale before it was not. It did not sell.
What could it be used for? I mean, how much land are we talking about?
Probably an acre or less.
Do you have an idea how much property is there?
I don't even know where the building is.
Okay, just like.
I've got information on the entire building.
But it's not a lot, but an
Couple
acre
acres
would be
maybe.
worth about $8,000. And so acres worth $8,000, if the building's got no value, you know, or if it's got a little bit of value, you're probably, the $70,000 seems like it was way.
What we did in the past is, and this is what your motion would be, if you approve the motion, I will put out letters to all the realtors in Manistee County, ask them to submit a proposal to us listing what they will provide, what they think the purchase price should be, or the sale price, and you know what their commission rate will be, and then I will bring it back to this board with some recommendations after talking to probably the Public Safety Committee, or Ways and Means, one of the two, and we'll either decide to put it up for sale at that time or not. But if you have no interest in putting it up for sale, then don't put me through the work of getting the realtor.
I guess what I'm asking, I guess first thing on the list then is everybody interested in selling this place?
I'll make the motion to have Mr. Kaminsky start contacting the realtors and see what they think.
I'll second that motion.
Are you talking about the motion that's in the personnel,
Oh, is there
or
already a
in
motion?
the public safety minutes?
Similar to that.
Yeah. Question for proposals. Yeah. Those question proposals will be sent to the realtors in Manistee County Finance listing major. But also, I think, to just hold them just what they think the value is.
Well, that will be a part of your selection process of a realtor, based on their commission rate, what they think the sale price, what they think they can get for the property. That kind of thing. So that's all part. I have a letter from about 7 years ago that I just need to update.
You all that, Joe?
Mr. Hilliard?
Yes.
Mr. Kolchak?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Schmidt?
Yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Waitner?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Thank you. That was the only item that we had for board action. We discussed a number of other items. One item is the WIMS. It's a wireless emergency notification system that the emergency management coordinator is working on. That's under progress and moving forward. Sheriff gave us his monthly updates as to what was going on at the sheriff's department here for the last month. And probably the last thing is, let's see, the lease. Do we need to make a motion on the lease? I don't think so.
No.
Manistee County Animal Control expires? Okay. Tinted windows in the courthouse is discussed. They got one bid and we're still looking for, I believe, one more bid to come in.
He was here yesterday.
Oh, is it? Okay. So hopefully we'll have a recommendation for the full board here next month. If there's nothing else, I'll make a motion to accept the public safety report.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we got joint courts, and there's nothing here that we should probably, but Tom, you want to bring us up to date on human medicine and probably what's happening there?
Last month, you made a motion to give 2% wage increases and require an additional 2% health insurance copay by employers, bringing their copay up to 9%. For all non-union elected officials, and court employees pending Benzie's decision on that same issue for court employees. That same day, Benzie voted no against that, or did not pass it. So we gave, effective October 1, at your direction, gave raises, 2% raises to all non-union employees and elected officials, effective October 1, and also increased their health insurance to 9%, and also actually even increased the court's health insurance effective October 1, but with no 2% wage increase for the courts. The Joint Court Committee met again on, I don't have that, it's on September or October 11th, I think it was. Really, Manistee made a proposal to Benzie and said, listen, for about $2,000 you can give this raise, because if you don't give it, we're going to give the raise, or propose that this board give a raise to the court employees based on their percentage of the health of the wages. And instead of the employee paying 9% of the health insurance on Benzie's portion, we're going to charge them nothing because your employees and Benzie pay nothing. And so you're going to pay 40% of 100%, and we're going to give a 2% raise on 60% of the wage, which is Manistee County's portion. I prayed very hard that night that Benzie would go ahead and approve this, because it would have caused us kind of an administrative nightmare to implement that. But I think the Manistee County Joint Court Committee felt strongly enough that these employees haven't had raises in 3 years, and this was the 4th year, and they've continually had higher co-pays on their health insurance, that they were willing to do that. Benzie did. I attended the Benzie County Board meeting last Tuesday. It was in the evening, and I attended it and helped them through that process. And they did vote. I don't remember what the vote was. It was not unanimous, but they did vote to give the 2% wages. So we are in the process of implementing those 2% wage increases for court employees right now. You're probably also wondering why you haven't received a budget book yet. It's because I was waiting to try to make the budget as accurate as possible. Plus, there's things, and so we're amending all the wages for the courts now, and hopefully in the next week or so you'll get your budget books, and the budget will be accurate. So that's really where we are. You do not have any action to take today. You already took the action. It was pending Benzie's approval. Benzie gave their approval. The only thing we have to do now is do a little bit of retro for Benzie employees, or for the court employees. So it all worked out. It's a difficult process trying to get 2 boards to agree, but it did get accomplished.
Okay. We need to make motion on the Joint Courts Committee.
I'll make a motion to accept the joint court.
Okay. All those in favor?
I need a
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're over to Regional Summit. And we really have nothing in here that needs any over here. As a matter of fact, you've got most of these things on here. When we had our meeting, we just got through that. We went through the paper. What was the
Evaluation for
the evaluation? And that's what we came up with. We're having lunch. Do it after you're finished with lunch, that kind of stuff. And why don't you just take that for yourself? It's a very small amount there. And, Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
It was a very good session, it was an excellent session, great speakers, a lot of positive comments on the evaluation. I think everybody got a copy, this is the summary right there, that Joe was talking about, but there's a lot of other comments in it too, it's all positive, so, it really is a good event, and I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of ideas for next year too.
And, Carl, you and your people up there, really did a good job for us.
Yeah. Do I have to go back there again?
Yeah, and again.
When you close that, I'll phone call which needs to happen.
We got your record.
The only comment that I heard that I thought was, there was a couple people complaining that there was no dessert, so next time give them a cookie.
You weren't one of those, were you?
No, I was not one of them.
No, he brought his own.
Keep in mind that we've been, and that is something the Regional Summit Committee will need to consider. We've been trying to keep the price down because we want this to basically be revenue neutral for us. We do spend a few $100s because the speakers are free and everything. But we basically spend the $15 for lunch, period. I think you received a very good lunch for $15. We've been charging $15 since inception, which has probably been 7 or 8 years. We may need to consider charging $20 or $18 next year so that, because I don't know how good, I'm sure the lunches are going to get slimmer and slimmer if we keep it at $15 because obviously the cost of food keeps going up. We were lucky that, we didn't have to pay for a room or anything like that, so the only cost was our cost of lunch.
The facilities are very nice, very nice. It's a great place to have a conference like that. And, it's qualitative too. It's not just dollars and cents. We're having the opportunity to showcase a lot of county services, plus the goodwill of putting together that thing too.
Yeah.
So it's
And the two rooms was real good. The two rooms are wonderful.
Lisa Segala and Julie Schmeling worked very hard.
All right, we're gonna go around with,
You got one more item, Jim.
where?
Well, you have my report, which I'd like to report a couple things on, and then
Well, you were last year, I was gonna go around and get that.
as a part of my report, though, then we have the vehicle bids.
Okay.
You want me to go, or? Just a couple of things. Scott Erickson from Tree, I talked to him yesterday. If you remember, we put out a bid, some of you were commissioners at the time, I don't believe. Put out a bid for a timber sale out in Bear Lake. Last year, we received, I think, about $80,000, if I remember right, 70-some thousand or 80, for a timber sale. As a part of that property, as a part of that 80 or 120 acres, I can't recall exactly, there's also a pine plantation there. Part of it is somewhat landlocked, and we have to get permission through a property owner to thin that. Scott Erickson had called me and said he's going to put the pine bid out, only half of it this week, and which would probably be about a $20,000 bid. We don't know exactly. But he's going to put it out for bids this week. It's all ready marked to do that thing. And then next spring, along with another sale, a private sale, he's going to put the other half of that out for bid. He's got a different strategy on how this will work better for us. So I just want you to know next month you may be approving a bid to have some timber cut on some land out in Bear Lake Township. We'll see what that brings.
Tom, where will those funds go?
We have in the past put them in the capital improvement fund, but you can put them wherever you want.
Like that building with it.
Basically, that's what you did. You bought the building AES is in with that money at cost.
It sounds like a good compliment.
Also, I talked to AES. As you know, each of you have met with them privately. Now is the time for them to be starting the strategic planning process with you, so you could be busy over the next several months once they get this going, meeting several times and getting the whole strategic plan put together, which is a big job, but it will really pay dividends for this board, I think, down the road.
What are they looking at for dates?
They have not given me any. I'm giving them, you had mentioned it to me, and I said, I better call them and say, what are you guys up to? They're supposedly in the process of compiling some of the information that you all gave them, so to start the process. But, like everyone else, that's just one of their many things they're working on.
Well, I think the winter's gonna be a good time to
Yes.
really get into this, and, or I think the meeting's a little less, long during the winter too, less items, maybe.
Well, it won't be during your board meeting. You will be
Well, I
having
know that.
special sessions, but yeah, hopefully, it depends. Depends on what comes up. But yes, budget time's not the time to do it.
Yeah, definitely not.
And then one other thing before you look at the bids is the chamber dinner is coming up on November 13th at the casino. We will be contacting you to see if you're interested in attending. Julie will be contacting you, so I'm just letting you know that.
What's the date of that, John?
November 13th. That's usually a Thursday night. Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday night. Wednesday, November 13th.
And also Monday.
That's just on the agenda.
Yeah, Monday, remember?
Monday for what?
I don't know.
West Michigan Alliance or something that day.
Oh, yeah, that's next Monday.
Whatever.
We'll be in touch with you. Everyone's going to that from what we understand, so. Again, and the only other thing is, we are in the process of selling a vehicle that's been sitting in our parking lot for several months. The sheriff's department received a new truck. They brought the old truck here, our maintenance department took the old truck, and then the old maintenance truck has been sitting in the parking lot. It was time to sell that thing. I dragged my feet on it for a little while, mainly because I didn't have time to do this, and then also just kind of forgot about it for a few months until I looked out there one day and said, you gotta get rid of this thing. We advertised it for sale. I suggest strongly that you accept the bid of Mr. Paranello. We received 2 bids. The truck's not worth any more than that.
You need a motion on that?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid for James Darnell for $1,222.
Second. Okay, we just,
Mr. Colton?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
yes.
Mr. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Reagan?
Yes.
Mr. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Mr. Hyder?
Yes.
That's all I have.
We'll go around the circle here. Richard, you first.
What do you want to know?
Well, we just want to look here.
All right, I would suggest that any board member here that wants more information, which are in the legislature, look up the dark stores at legislature that you're trying to push through. It might have a little bearing on our community here in the future. Another thing,
You say Google it, just Google it, and see.
well, there's legislation called dark stores that they're working on right now.
The state.
Yeah, do you have any idea what that is? Anyone here? It has to do with these big box stores that are going in. And what happened is they get a store in there, and usually the tax revenue goes up. Well, throughout the United States, the federal, these big box stores have got a group of attorneys together. And they're fighting all these districts. For example, like Myers, when they go in here, they're not going to be taxed any more than when the Kmart store was empty. The value that you get out of that store is the same as Myers. And they're fighting in court and winning because they're going to the United States, they got the money to fight for those districts. But just remember that, look it up and for clarification. Yesterday I was at recycling in Emmett County. If you get a chance, go through that. Their recycling program is set up, and it's at no cost to the county people unless you take and you have pickup. You know, curb pickup is where they make their money. Or if you take in merchandise like a mattress, they take asphalt, they take everything. And the clothes off your back, they'll take.
Yeah, it's quite an operation.
And you need to go and see this. And then we went out to Dark Skies yesterday. That's up on Mackinac Bridge. And it's a wilderness that Emmett County bought 660 acres. But Emmett County has a little more money than we do. They've got over 3,000 acres that they own themselves, which are free to public use. So that's all I've got to say about where I've been.
Okay, I gave each of you some brochures here, and actually I've had these for some time, and I was at a meeting that Human Services County Board, the officer in charge of the drug enforcement for Manistee County came to talk about primarily methamphetamine, and I just wanted to have these brochures on it. It's a very, it's considered the most addictive drug there is now, is methamphetamine, and it is also the most destructive. It will actually eat you alive. If you've seen, I don't know if there's some pictures in here on it, but people's teeth falling out on the ground, their hair starts to fall out, their body just gets eaten up. It's really a toxic drug. I mean, it's a drug that's a toxic drug. And the problem is that children and those families are just, also, are susceptible to this too. So it's an extremely dangerous drug. And so this talks a little bit about, the signs and things. And it also gives you information about, if you see something that looks like, because meth labs can be made very easily, and they'll throw them out in the dishes and they'll be in homes and stuff like this. So you can recognize those and do some things to do. Mainly it's just not to touch it. Maybe call the authorities. But it's a growing, unfortunately, it's a growing problem in our county and a lot of other counties too. And it is just so destructive. That's the really sad part about it. It's so addictive.
Okay, Carl?
Arlington Improvement Board has been occupying a tremendous amount of my time. We are making progress. It is, the meetings are still quite long, but we're getting great participation. Our public hearing that lasted over 2 hours this past Friday. There were 48 people in attendance, so that's more than half of the riparians that were there. Still making progress, getting the information to some of the folks that lived out of town. We had several people make the trip for that hearing from Grand Rapids and Troy areas. Still making a great deal of progress, but again, we want to make sure we're listening to everyone before we make the final decisions as to what to do to fix the lake. More to come on that, I'm sure, and I'd also like to thank all the commissioners for the conversations today. It's nice to know that even when we are on opposite sides of certain issues, that we discuss it professionally and respectfully. And also thank Richard for opening my eyes to a couple of other things in regards to the road commission situation, and I will certainly take that advice on with deep rigor. That it's much appreciated when we can have conversations like that.
I do, back to that subject, there is a recommendation I made to the road commission that they haven't filed. So you might want to look at that before you go back to the building.
Thank you. That's it.
Okay, Carl, thanks. How about Jill?
Well, thank you for reappointing the board commissioner for the board of counselors. They're a very competent group that have a tedious, time-consuming job after each election. The group that we have does a really fine job, and I think Sally Blank for applying and stepping aside, but I'm sure she would be an asset to the new board. My audit is over, my Supreme Court audit is over. They were here 3 weeks. Everything went fine. And they'll be giving us a report soon. We have an election coming up in a couple of weeks for the city of Manistee, even-numbered district council seats, and for Onekama Township has a building proposal. I'm in the process of interviewing for my part-time position that was approved at for the budget year, so I'm kind of in the middle of that right now. Other than that, nothing.
I want to bring up the government center that most of us were at up in but it was not only a good thing, but everyone there was so good about taking you and showing you things, and it was great. What I liked about it is three stories, and each story had lunch. If you missed the one on first, you could take one.
That's a good one, eh?
Yeah, and then if you kept doing it,
Yeah, 3 kinds of cake, 4 had different kinds of cake on it.
But really, and there were a lot of people there, and it just was a really, really nice. I think I spent how long were we there? 2 or 3 hours?
We were there quite a while, because we had meeting after that, I believe.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful facility.
And the other thing is for Tom, just real quick, like, in our summit, we talked a little bit about a Christmas party. I know it's a couple months away, but did they say anything to you as far as what?
Well, you don't have Christmas parties, recognition day. I mean, it's important that we distinguish it that way. In the past, we've had some things at the church across the way, usually after your board meeting, a pizza thing, and then you give out you recognize the employees who have been here 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I know that Julie's working on that. I think when you have your meeting next, you'll be making some decisions.
Well, that's everybody should know that there's something going to go on there, probably after the December, which would be around the 17th of December.
That's usually when it's.
So that's,
Okay. Okay, thank you. A couple things on the drain commissioner's report here, I see. Kettle Hole, is that the total cost, or is that just the cost of 84 to 86,000? Is that the total cost of everything, or is that just the removal of the brush, or what? Do you know, Tom? No. Okay. And then
My guess is that's the total cost.
That's what I'm thinking, but I don't know. Okay.
The total cost doesn't usually say 84 to 86.
Yeah.
It usually says this much.
Exactly. Okay. And number 2 is mud leg drain. I've never heard of that one before, but where's that one? Any idea?
I have no idea. Okay. You can't ask me a question into that.
That particular drain district he's speaking of is in Norman Township.
Okay.
It's along Udall Hills Road. It is notorious. Every spring, the ditches are full of water. This year, with the incredible amount of rain we had in the spring, there was a large issue. There's a couple people that couldn't get to their houses because of the water. But I look at what I see in the report there as more of a knee-jerk reaction to that situation where a couple of people brought a problem forward that has been there for years and years and years.
Is that a drainage district now?
I don't know. We do not have a definition or determination of drainage districts or viability of drainage districts, as been asked by the drain commissioner for the past 3 meetings that he's been at, and what his lawyer told him to do. So,
Okay, thank you. Nothing.
As liaison of the chamber, they have chosen a new executive director since the resignation of Melissa Reed. They went through a pretty intense process, if you will, and that person will be announced when they have the press release. At this time, I think they're waiting for a contract to be signed. And then that person will also, if I understand it correctly, come and introduce themselves to the board once they're on board. And they'll go to this board, city council, different boards, and introduce themselves and be involved. And wait for the announcement in the paper.
well, the only thing I have, when I came to the meeting today, I was approached about changing the date for the Green Team meeting on Halloween. Well, I'm booked up this Thursday, so I can't change it to this Thursday. And our meeting is at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the 31st. You know, so we're usually an hour long. I don't see how that would affect the holiday.
well, the only thing
I didn't have a problem. Whatever they do is fine.
can we go to 1 o'clock instead of 2?
Yeah, we can go to 1 o'clock. That'd be fine.
How about you, Alan?
Yeah, that's fine.
We'll change that to 1 o'clock, and then then I'll have enough time to get the trees when they come up.
gonna come to your house.
Tell you what, that's
You might have a big
What are
family.
you giving away?
we have over 200 kids coming.
I've got one, or two maybe.
Your two have been to my house, come on now.
I just
All right.
lock the doors and turn the lights off.
Tom?
Sarah Howard did.
How about you, Tom? Anything else you gotta say?
I have nothing else.
Good. We're done.
I have one question for you.
Don't leave until you sign your reports.
Manistee.